السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem and we are just about to get started here. Just want to let the people in the Twitter world or the Twitterverse, I'm not sure what they're saying these days, be aware and they can join in too, because this is for everybody. Just getting ready to get started here. All right, I think that they're in. Yalla bismillah, let's get started. I'll start again. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. We are broadcasting live on X, not Twitter, X and YouTube. And we want to welcome everybody to our broadcast. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we're going to be talking about some stuff here today. Brothers and sisters, we're also going to be taking your questions, your comments, and or concerns. And we want everybody to have a chance to participate. But we're going to have to get started firstly and foremostly if we're going to address this topic by bringing everybody up to speed, which I'm pretty sure you guys know by now, that last week there was an attack on the capital of Qatar, known as Doha. It was carried out by Israeli warplanes, understood to have been F-35s, F-35I probably to be exact, and were carried out at the order of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not something that people are wondering happened. No, it was an attack that they have readily admitted, and the rest is history. Now there's a conference going on tomorrow, Monday, and it's going to be discussing the response that the Arabs and the Islamic countries, because Arab leaders from the region are invited, as well as the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, the OIC, and they're going to sit down and they're going to talk about what should be the response to Israel in light of their aggression. That's important. Why is it important? Because they're meeting? Not necessarily, but because the people who are going to be in the room, we're going to be talking about their countries and what they did or did not know, could or could not have known. But let's get started by, first let's talk about how this took place, from what direction, the most likely direction, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Take a look, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem for OGN. Today we're going to discuss the attacks which took place in... Okay, I'm going to, hold on one second. I'm going to suspend that, and I'm just going to do the explanation here, because the people on X aren't going to have a chance to benefit from that. So we'll have to work on that for the future. All right, let me explain what we've got here. All right, so the people on YouTube are looking at a map. Now, there are several ways that Israel, as you can locate Israel, it's right in the area of Egypt and Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon. You can see Israel and Palestine there. Now, stay with me, brothers and sisters, even if you can't see the map. We've got a 1,700 plus kilometer trip between Israel and Qatar, which is in the Persian Gulf, just south of Iran. I think you can all visually keep that in mind. But those who can see, it's there. We've got Qatar right next to Bahrain, and sandwiched in between Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. Okay, excuse me. Now, you've got Israel there. If they're going to travel from Israel to Qatar, it's 1,700 plus kilometers. Plus meaning depending upon where you're taking off from Israel or what have you. Now, if this is the flight pattern and you travel direct from Israel to Qatar, now, first of all, why are we saying that this is the most likely route that they took? Because traveling through Jordanian and Saudi Arabian airspace is something that they've been allowed to do since 2020. Okay? Now, this is important because those travel routes are already established and already agreed upon. So it's not like they have to do something special. Now, what they do have to do is just to let the country know that their planes are going to be traveling over their airspace at such and such a time, and their entry point will be such and such a place. Their exit point will be such and such a place. This is standard operating procedure when it comes to aviation, because that cuts down on people not knowing who's in their airspace, planes getting shot down, planes crashing into other planes, and other unfortunate incidents. So you've got to keep this in mind. First of all, they have to let the host country know that they will be traveling over their airspace. First thing. Second thing, the established route between Israel and going through Jordanian and Saudi Arabian airspace has already been established. So there's nothing new there, folks. The third thing is when you are requesting to go into the airspace of another country, you have to do so, depending on the country, somewhere between 24 to 72 hours ahead of time. So it's not something where somebody could just say all of a sudden, all right, let's go get them. And then they just hop in a plane and just take off. This is not the case. Fourth thing that has to be borne in mind, the type of aircraft that is going through the airspace of the country has to be known. It's not some type of generic type of document, and it says, okay, what kind of plane will be passing through our airspace? A blue one or a red one? No, it's not like that. So they would have to inform those countries that an F-35 is coming through. You're not going to tell me that that doesn't raise, warning signs that an F-35 is coming through. Okay, I digress. Okay, so we're back to the map. Israel is there, and Israel is 1,700 kilometers. Now, this is very, very important. Why is it important? It's important because an F-35 has a cruise speed of around 930 kilometers per hour. Now, it can go much faster than that, but those are only for bursts of speed. So it goes about 930 kilometers per hour. That would mean that including an aerial refuel, because it's 1,700 kilometers, and the maximum that with their internal fuel they can go is 2,200 kilometers. But they don't wait until it's on E and then try to figure out, well, where can I get some gas from? No, so they have these aerial tankers which can refuel the plane while in flight. It takes somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes. Now, bear in mind, there were about 10 planes, according to Israeli military sources from Israeli news publications, that state it was about 10 to 15 planes that took place. Now, 10 or 15 planes were going from Israel F-35s towards Qatar. Okay, now that we've got that, it would take about 2 hours to go from Israel to Qatar. All right, now let's go and discuss where those tankers had to have come from. Those tankers had to have come from either Al-Udeid Air Base, which is located where else? In Qatar. It's the biggest U.S. military air base in the entire Middle East. So they have about 10,000 troops there. They have the aerial assets of the U.S. Air Force and the British Royal Air Force as well. Or it came from Saudi Arabia, which is Prince Sultan Air Base, who has a similar complement of aerial assets and planes and such like that. Okay, So I want to ask the question. I want to make sure that people can really understand what I'm saying here. How is it possible the Jordanians didn't know? How'd that happen? How is it possible that Saudi Arabia didn't know and could have warned the Qataris, because their actual exit point from Saudi Arabia is crystal clear, because they had to declare it. They couldn't just, just take their planes in. Where's it going? Don't ask. Okay, what entry point are you coming in from? Why do you need to know? None of this was the case. But there's another thing that's also important. But I'm going to mention that in a second. Okay, I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. Let's briefly go back to the map. So we've covered the route between Israel and Qatar being one particular route. Maybe somebody will say, come on, Bilal, what about these guys if they decided to go through Egypt, down through the Red Sea, around the Arabian Sea, around the Gulf of Oman, into the Persian Gulf, and then let off long-range missiles so they wouldn't even have to come into Qatari airspace? I would say, okay, bet. Let's entertain that for a second. The first issue is that both Saudi Arabia and Egypt are monitoring aerial traffic in the Red Sea. People have to understand that monitoring and passing through the territorial waters of the Red Sea between Saudi Arabia and Egypt is not no man's land. You can't just fly your plane out there because, oh, well, there's no land there, so I'm just going to do my thing. It doesn't work like that. That is just not how aviation works. So in the Red Sea, which is between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they had to inform them ahead of time. And when they entered the airspace of the Red Sea, you're in the territorial waters of Saudi Arabia or Egypt. Again, it's not something that nobody knew, nobody could know. Were they out there? I don't know. We didn't see them. So forget about that in terms of nobody would know that they were there. Okay, if the Israelis took another route and they went the route between, as someone had suggested, between Syria to Iraq, down into the Persian Gulf. Now, if they took that particular route, somebody had said, okay, but wait a minute, the Syrians don't have sophisticated stuff and they wouldn't, maybe they didn't detect it. Okay, the Syrians have an airport. They are into aviation, even though their planes have largely been destroyed. They still have the capability to know who's in their skies. And even if they didn't, and they went through Iraq, the Kuwaitis had to have known that there were F-35s passing through their airspace. And the Persian Gulf is going to be manned by Iran, Bahrain, and Kuwait. So once again, there's no way in the world that all of those countries had no idea that the Israelis had brought F-35s into their airspace. Again, we're talking about Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, and the Omanis. Now, all of these people, now why am I ragging, I guess if you could say, on these people? Because these are the ones that are going to be at the conference tomorrow. They're the ones who are going to be discussing what the response to Israel should be. Now, why would these people be at the conference when at least several of them were complicit in the attack on Qatar? Bearing one thing in mind, no one has publicly stated from any of these Middle Eastern countries that the Israelis violated their airspace. I'm going to say this again. None of them have publicly stated that the Israelis violated their airspace to carry out this attack on the Qataris. All of them say, no, we condemn in the strongest possible terms the attack on the Qataris. And yeah, that's right, they should condemn it. But also we need to ask the question is, how did that happen? There's no, what are we saying, that the Israeli planes just teleported from Israel into Qatari airspace and just fired? This is an impossibility, brothers and sisters. So I'm saying to you that the very people who are going to be discussing the response to the Israelis are the same people who are complicit in this particular attack. Now, they might come forward if they were being truthful, which they will not. Will say, listen, Bilal, they let us know that they were bringing F-35s in. We didn't know where they were going. They didn't tell us. I didn't ask them where they were going. They're lying. That's like, I want to pass through your yard and I have on a battle vest with 8 magazines. I'm carrying an AK-47 and I got a mask on, and I knock on your door and I'm saying, can I pass through your backyard? I'm heading to the opposite direction. And you know who I am. You're not going to ask where I'm going? Come on, guys. Let's get serious here. So this is the reality. Now, who's going to be there tomorrow? Well, you're going to have the Emiratis. You're going to have all of the leaders from the region, which are going to be there, and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, which I'm going to just come right out. I'm going to tell you, and some people are not going to like that. The Organization for Islamic Cooperation is a do-nothing organization. They don't do anything of any benefit or of any value to solving problems of this nature. Now, they might send some copies of the Quran to a certain African country, and that's nice. Or they might host some interfaith dialogue, whoop-de-doo or something like that, which has really made any kind of impact whatsoever. But they're going to be there tomorrow. And what should you expect? I would tell you, in all honesty, brothers and sisters, don't expect anything. I don't think that they're going to do anything. I think they're going to sit there. They're going to talk about how this is a violation of their sovereignty and how it's a bad act and it's not nice, and they should. And then the next one's going to get up there. He's going to say the same thing, but in a different, slightly different accent. And then the next one's going to get up there and say, "How could you guys do this?" And all, we want peace, and this doesn't help for peace. Dude, it's not going to amount to anything, because so many of those countries are complicit. Saudi Arabia and the Jordanians already opened up their airspace. The Bahrainis and the Emiratis have already signed the Abraham Accords, and have already the Bahrainis were helping the Israelis to attack the Houthis in Yemen, who were trying to choke off the passage of ships going to Israel, because 50% of the food consumed by Israelis is imported. So it had to have gone through let me just pull up this map right here. It had to have gone through the territorial waters of Yemen, as you can see here on the map. Southern Yemen is about a 21 kilometer strait that's there, called Bab el-Mandeb, wherein ships that are going north through Sinai onto the country known as Israel would have to pass through those areas, and the Houthis are trying their best to create a blockade of those areas. But who was coming to the rescue of the Israelis? Bahrain. Oh, can you figure that? But it wasn't only the Bahrainis, it was also the Emiratis who opened up their ports, along with the Bahrainis and the Saudis and the Jordanians, because they created a land route so that those Houthis who tried to make it hard for the Israelis wouldn't be inconvenienced, and they opened up a land route using an Israeli company called Trucknet in order to be able to bring in the goods from the Persian Gulf, unloading in the Emirati ports and the Bahraini ports, and then they would travel by truck through Saudi Arabia onto Jordan and into the country known as Israel. Oh, and by the way, if you thought that the Egyptians were going to represent, well, I'll just tell you to think again. Why? Because as as individuals around the world are boycotting Israeli companies and forcing them to change so much of their business models. We're talking about Pepsi and Coca-Cola and Nestle and Pizza Hut and all these other companies which are benefiting the Israeli war machine. Who shows up to make a $35 billion deal just about 1 month ago? Who does that? The Egyptians. Oh, you can't make this stuff up, brothers and sisters. So when people come and say, Bilal, why are you doing this? This is not right. This is the reality. Let's go and see what you guys are talking about. Here we've got some stuff here on Twitter also. We've got Mustafa Ahmed in the house, and he says, let's be real. The only thing Qatar will do is call their lawyers. Call their lawyers. No, that's not the only thing that they can do. They can pull their wallets out and throw them at the Israelis. So yeah, I had to call you out on that one, man. Sorry, Mustafa Ahmed. You didn't hit the nail on the head. I'm just kidding here. But you're right. What else can they do? Let's talk about what else can they do. Check me out, brothers and sisters. I'm not making this stuff up, okay? Now, I'm going to give you the brief overview, and if you want more details, I will give it to you in a written form and display it and explain it on our next broadcast. But it's up to you. All right. The first thing is that Gulf countries have bought billions of dollars of U.S.-made F-16s, F-18s, and F-15s. These are warplanes. These are the planes of choice for the Gulf countries. Okay, got that? Cool. Very important. Now, can the Qataris actually say our response to this is going to be that they bombed us and we're going to send one of our warplanes that we spend big money on over to take the same route that they took back to Israel and to bomb Tel Aviv, for example? Do you think that they can do that? Well, brothers and sisters, you don't know how they play the game. I will explain. They cannot do that. Why? Because America has what is called end user agreements. That means that just because you spend billions of dollars buying these planes, don't think that you can use it to your discretion. You can do whatever you want. You can just do your thing. No, this is not the case. I want to make sure that this is very clear. This is not the case. Number one, they cannot attack a U.S. ally with those F-16, F-15 planes, even though they bought them. It's not a thing where it's like, I own it, I can do whatever I want to with it. They can't do that. And if they did do that, they would risk a serious backlash from the Americans. They would stop selling parts because these planes can't operate without parts. They can also shut down portions of the computer. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can shut down the computer in mid-flight, but you also have to understand that in places like Pakistan, they have their own technicians which are there in the airport servicing the planes and making sure that those planes don't go anywhere that Washington did not already agree to. This is what's called end user agreements. So even if the Qataris wanted to attack, they can't. They can't use their best stuff. I don't know, maybe they got some Chinese stuff laying around, or or some old Megs or something like that. But the reality is that anything that would possibly even reach a Tel Aviv is U.S. made, U.S. purchased. They can't even use it. How is that for stupidity, brothers and sisters? That's the real deal. Mustafa Ahmed comes back and says, I swear Arabs are their own worst enemies. Yes, they are. Oh, one thing I wanted to make mention of is that Wait a minute. We've got Mudir here who says, we're really counting on the Islamic Conference's response tomorrow. Solar reactions just end up playing into the hands of Israeli brutality. Brother, I don't want to burst the bubble, but I'm telling you, brother, there ain't going to be no response that's going to make any difference, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Take a look at the name of it. It's called the Arab-Islamic Summit. Okay, all of a sudden, wait a minute, all these guys have been working with the Americans who've been slaughtering the Palestinians. When Donald Trump went to Doha earlier this year, we're talking about, brother, they gave him a $400 million plane as a gift, and plus investments totaling to $1.2 trillion. This is at the height of the genocide happening in Gaza and the takeover in the West Bank. Who's paying for it? Donald Trump. And he went and he scored big time, $1.2 trillion. Okay. So with this in mind, what kind of response do you think they could really mount? But going back to the Islamic element of it, where's the Islamic element when you're working with the genociders? As for the Emiratis, you've got all of these Emirati influencers now who've opened up new accounts, who have big Emirati money behind them, trying to whitewash the crimes of Israel, pro-Israel. I'm telling you, up until today, I'm watching certain accounts. They have their ghutras on and their attire, their Emirati Persian Gulf attire, and they're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood is doing this and the Muslim Brotherhood is doing that. These guys are drunk with their love of Israel. So now you want to call it an Arab-Islamic summit? Where are the Islamiyun? Where are the Shiyukh who are really for the brothers and sisters? Yeah, brothers and sisters, they wouldn't even be invited to the conference. Next, let's see what we've got here on YouTube. All right, we've got a question here. It says, good day, Brother Kareem. Do you think the Ummah is uniting? Egypt proposed to create an Arab military coalition, and Saudi Arabia is proposing to create a Muslim bloc with Iran and other Muslim nations. Brother, I'm so sorry to tell you. The answer to that question is no. Nah, ain't happening. Forget it. Don't be disappointed. The reality of the situation is that Egypt just signed a $35 billion gas deal with the Israelis, just as the genocide is going on and individuals around the world are doing the job that countries don't do in boycotting Israeli-friendly products, and also forget about the Egyptians. Saudi Arabia opened up their airspace. Why didn't they shut their airspace down and stop the Israelis from flying over their airspace? They've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. No response. And they're talking about creating a Muslim bloc with Iran and other Muslim nations. I tell you, if they do come together and put together a coalition like that, it's to make sure that the people who really want Islam don't have an opportunity to put their agenda forward. That's just being real with you, brothers and sisters. And I wouldn't tell you if I didn't love you. Okay, we've got another question here. According to U.S. sources, Israel launched ballistic missiles from the Red Sea, not flying over Jordan or Saudi Arabia. Okay, question. How'd they get to the Red Sea? Blink, blink. Just putting it here, putting the map up again. Hold on a second. Okay, the first thing, in order to go from Israel to the Red Sea, you're going to have to go through, you're going to have to enter at some point into Saudi Arabian airspace, okay, or Egyptian airspace. Now, even if you did that and you launched it from the Red Sea, you didn't launch it from the northern part of the Red Sea, because those missiles would have had to travel all the way across the entirety west to east to all the way to Qatar. Once again, it would have been shot down. The Saudis have the ability to shoot down missiles, of course. This is the first thing. The second thing is that the Red Sea is also monitored by the Egyptians and the Saudis. So it's not like that just because you're flying over the Red Sea that it's now no man's land. No way, brothers and sisters. Even to enter into those territorial waters of Egypt and Saudi Arabia, you're going to have to let them know prior to it and get their okay and so on and so forth. And even if that didn't happen, why wasn't there any condemnation from the Egyptians or the Saudis or the Jordanians that the Israelis violated their airspace to carry out this attack? You didn't hear any of those countries mention any condemnation of any type about the Israelis violating their airspace. And Allah knows best. I checked it just before we went online. Next up, we've got Rodrigo here who says, how is Syria? Are you still living in Syria? Yes, I am. And Syria is better than it was, but we're in dangerous waters. And we'll talk about that another time. Do you think the death of Charlie Kirk will affect anything in America and Israel? Rodrigo says. But he also comes back and says, do you think Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel? I'm going to come out and I'm going to say that, yeah, I do. I don't have any proof for that, but I will say that Charlie Kirk was changing his opinion. He had a big influence on college campuses around the country, and he was starting to ask some serious questions. Now, I ain't no Charlie Kirk fan. Let me be real with you. He had some things to say about the Prophet ﷺ that if he was probably near me, we'd have been wrestling on the ground. But some of his stances and his staunch support for Israel was definitely weakening. He did some interview with Ben Shapiro, who is a diehard Israeli fan, and he was asking some questions, and people were raising their eyebrows like, whoa, what are these questions that he's asking? He's not supposed to be asking questions like that. Wondering if the media is properly scrutinizing the things that the Israelis and the Israeli narrative that's being put forward. So a lot of that was going on. And do I think that the Israelis did it? Yeah, I probably do. But also at the same time, I wouldn't say that any of what I just said is actionable because there's no proof for it. But if you ask me what I thought, I told you. I think that the Israelis were behind it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We got my man Kurdi who's in the house, and he's here, and he says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Bilal, why are so many Arab countries the BITCH of Israel? What is there to gain? Oh, you kiss your mother with that mouth? Well, I can't use the type of language that you use, but I understand the sentiment here. Why are so many Arab countries? Why? Because the Americans and the Israelis are one. The Americans and the Israelis are one. They're not two entities, they're one entity. And being that they all are act like more like women than men, and they outsource their security to America, and that's after spending billions of dollars on these advanced weapons. So you can't be Washington friendly without being Tel Aviv friendly. I'm going to say that again. You can't be Washington friendly without being Tel Aviv friendly. And that's real. And anybody that'll tell you something other than that, they're faking it, or they don't know what time it is. So I'm telling you, anybody who's cool with Washington is cool with Tel Aviv. Can't get around it. So that's where it is to gain. Or the Qataris thought that. The Qataris said, well, you know what? We We hosted the Hamas leadership because the Americans wanted us to host their leadership. And then when the talks were going nowhere, we told Hamas to leave. And then the Americans told them to bring them back in the Biden administration. So we brought them back and they came here. Now, once again, don't be fooled by the Qataris that they are the victims, because they ain't. They're not the victims, because they are the ones that are, and I'm being real with you, they're doing America's bidding, and it's not benefiting the Palestinian brothers and sisters. You know what? They shouldn't be some mediator. Look, I'm going to tell you something. If there are 10 biker gang members and there are 2 Muslims that are over here, and the biker gang members came into the yard of the 2 Muslims and they took over part of the yard and they start shooting at them, and when they want to go anywhere, they put up a fence and stuff like that to keep them locked in. And then I come and I say, whoa, guys, look, I'm going to be a mediator here. Dude, we don't need no mediator. We need countries that are going to step up to the plate and say, yo, Israel, this is what you are perpetrating against the Palestinians. We ain't having it. Because number 1, these are Muslim brothers and sisters. Number 2, and this is a distant number 2, it's against international law. Number 3, it's against all kinds of international norms. We are going to oppose you. But you don't get that. It's like, oh, we're trying to be mediators. They're not trying to come to an agreement, as everybody here understands, and even the Qataris understand that. But they're doing the bidding of Washington, and if you sleep with dogs, you wake up with fleas. Next, Rodrigo comes and says Saudi didn't know. What are you basing it on, Rodrigo? Come on now. I done talked about 10 minutes about going through Saudi airspace, and if you look at it here, just going back here very briefly to the map, whichever route they took, if they went to the Red Sea route, then the Saudis are monitoring the airspace over the Red Sea. If they went the Persian Gulf route, then the Saudis also are monitoring the airspace over the Persian Gulf. So if you're saying that the Saudis didn't know, are you saying that out of nostalgia, because maybe you live in Saudi Arabia or you like the Saudis or something like that? I'm asking you again, what would you be basing that on? Zubayr Ahmed is saying that it's the biggest U.S. military base outside of the USA. That's the Udeid Air Base, which is located in Qatar. Now, again, Rodrigo's back and saying MBS didn't know. Okay, when you bring back something substantial and all, then maybe we can entertain that. Okay. And then he comes and he says, but Jordan most likely knew. So yeah, I'm not sure who he's working with or what his agenda might be, but I'm not sure how, he says that MBS is not like the Jordanian ruler. Really? How so? Okay, next. We've got Jaguar 10 who says, when will these Arab nations wake up? These Arab leaders only way describe them as dumb. They never learn the lesson. I'm really sorry. I wish I could call you out and I could tell you, yo, man, yo, you can't talk like that. It ain't like that. But it is like that. On to Twitter, we've got Silver TM, So Bilal, from a Christian who is crying for Palestinian children every day. Tell me, is there any hope? What or who is going to save them? Listening to you, there does not seem to be any hope, neither from the West nor the Arab countries. Neither from the West, neither from the Arab countries in terms of leadership. But I got something to tell you, and I want everybody to be happy about this. You've got a fleet of at least 40 ships that have begun to set sail for Gaza, because the people around the world, and these ships have Muslims and non-Muslims on them. The people around the world are waking up saying, no, we're not having this. This is number one. If you want to talk about America, America has senatorial and congressional elections happening in 2026. The new crop of would-be leaders are openly looking and seeing that supporting Israel is toxic, and they're not going to get elected in that way. That's something that would be that's something to watch. And like I say, you've got these ships that are going there, and there'll be another wave of ships going, inshallah ta'ala. You've got notable people who are known around the world who are on their way there, and you've got boycotts of Israeli products. No, brothers and sisters, there's a lot to be excited about. I just want to make it crystal clear that it ain't going to come from these Gulf Arabs or these Arab countries. They are all complicit, all of them. And I said it, and Allah knows best. All righty. We've got here, all right. We've got, it would be helpful for you to do a whole show on the HT, meaning Hizb ut-Tahrir, conflict, as there's a complete blackout on the issue aside from protest coverage here and there and very scant details. You're right. You're right. And we're going to try to cover that somewhere within the next 7 days, inshallah ta'ala. Thank you for that reminder. The Glorious Lion says, Bilal, I think you are missing the fact that an F-35 had the radar cross-section of a golf ball. None of those countries gave permission for Israel to enter their airspace. Cool. Okay, let's take it at that. Let's say that none of those countries gave permission for Israel to come into their airspace. All right, bet. Let's go back to the map here. Let's just say the Egyptians didn't give permission, the Saudis didn't give permission, the Jordanians didn't give permission, the Iraqis didn't give permission, the Kuwaitis didn't give permission, the Bahrainis didn't give permission. Then how did the Israeli planes get there? Not only did they get there, but they launched the strike at 3:46 p.m. local time. By 3:50 p.m., it was on all of the news media channels. The planes didn't even have a chance to make their way back to Israeli airspace. So I would ask you a question. Even if they didn't know that they were coming, what about going back? What route do you think they took? They went through Iran? I don't think so. They went through Pakistan and Afghanistan? I don't think so. They went all the way around Africa to go back? I don't think so. So I'm saying, if you're saying that none of those countries gave permission, how did they go through their airspace and make their way back from their airspace? Because once everybody was alerted to it, they said, yo, shut down our airspace. We can't have this. But nobody did that. None of those countries even complained. It's not geographically possible that they made their way to Qatar and didn't go through those countries. It's not possible, brother. I'm sorry, man, but it's not real. Okay, the Glorious Lion is back and says, Syria has zero air defense. I can't believe you are blaming Syria all the time. Syria's friends with the Palestinian resistance and Qatar. Stop blaming Ashara. Okay, very good. The first thing, Syria has zero air defenses. Okay, you don't have to have air defenses, but you can blow the whistle. We've got F-35s traveling through our airspace, and we're letting everybody in the region know. You can't do that? I'm asking a question here. I mean, you might not be able to shoot it down, and I'll give you that. Now, first of all, I wasn't blaming Syria. That's something that you said. But since we're bringing Syria into it, that's something that Syria could do if they went over Syrian airspace, is they could alert. They're going north, northeast, south, southeast, south, southwest, or whatever the case is, and they pass through F-35 planes. There's 10 of them. Did they do that? Syria is friends with the Palestinian resistance. Well, one of the first things Ahmed Shara did was to shut down Palestinian cells working here in Syria. Okay, I get it. That's up to him. He's the leader. I got that. But what has he done that would show that he is a friend to the Palestinian resistance? I'm not going to say whether he is or he isn't. I'm just saying, what are you basing your statement on? Has he done something to show you that he is a friend to the Palestinian resistance? Allah knows best. And he's a friend of Qatar. I could believe he's a friend of Qatar. I could believe that. What does that mean? I don't know. And Allah knows best. All right, let's take one last one. Okay. Oh, okay. Glorious Lion is back again. The F-35 is the most stealth aircraft in service by any Air Force. Cool. Cool. Let's go forward with that. But the aerial tankers to refuel, the 10 of them, they're not the most stealthiest, is it? No, it's not. So wherever they refueled those planes, because you're not taking a 1,700 kilometer journey if they went direct, and 1,700 kilometer back, that's 3,400 kilometers. That's if you went straight and then came right back and all, you'd still need to refuel. You're telling me that those aerial tankers refueling those planes, those are the most stealthiest aircraft also? That refuel had to happen either over the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, over Saudi Arabia. Come on, y'all, what's up? I brought the map up so people could look at it, and on the reel to reel, that's the real deal. All right, last one. You've got here, the Glorious Lion is back, and he says, Bilal, with much due respect, I feel your narrative is very wrong. None of those countries gave consent for the Israeli F-35Is to pass into their airspace. So where is the condemnation? First of all, what are you basing it on? Secondly, where is the condemnation from these individual countries that their airspace was violated? Nobody said a word. There's no way that those Israeli aircrafts could have made their way from Israel to Qatar and back without violating some of their airspace, but not a single one of them had a thing to say. Yo. Can't leave without saying salam to Pamela Chubb, who's saying salam, walaikum salam wa barakatuh, from Ireland. Okay, brothers and sisters, we got to roll. I'm sorry, this is as far as we can take it today. Please visit our crowdfunding page, medina.com/voices of truth. That's medina.com/voices of truth. That's MADINAH.com/voices of truth. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allahu khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I will see you guys next time, inshallah.